Pride is sneaky. Pride has such a way of penetrating our hearts. Pride is one of the biggest enemies in the Christian's life, and it's a big enemy in my life. This morning I was reading the parable of the laborers, and the context of this parable is, essentially there's a master who hires laborers to work his vineyard. He hires them. They work at the beginning of the day, and then the master goes out multiple times throughout the day. I think at the 3rd hour, 6th hour, 9th hour, and then the 11th hour, and brings more laborers in. And then at the end of the parable, the master brings all the laborers together and he begins to pay them, last to first. So imagine, all the laborers are there. The last laborers that came in to work at the 11th hour, all the way down to the laborers who worked all day. So the laborers that were there all day long, they witnessed the rest of the laborers being paid. And every single laborer there got the same payment, a denarius, a day's wage. The story goes on to say that the ones that were there all day began to grumble. Why? Because they were paid the same amount as the guys that were only there for 1 hour, 3 hours, 6 hours, 9 hours. It wasn't fair. And that's easy to process in our minds, right? I mean, you work 12 hours, you should get paid more than the ones who work 1 hour. But that's not God's economy. And here's the thing that we need to come to understand. God is just, but also God is generous. And he extends grace to me just like he does to you, just like he does to anyone else. And here's the other thing. God's grace is not based on our merit or what we could do for him. It says it very clearly at the beginning. God's kingdom is like, and then tells this story. Back in Jesus's day, Jesus is telling this parable because what the Jews had been taught is that everything was based on their works, and he was completely dismantling that idea. And so what's the point for you and I? Well, for me, this really convicted my heart because I am one that likes to work. I like to do. And we work and live in a society that the one who works the hardest gets ahead. The one who gets after it gets the carrot. I work in sales. Sky is the limit. If I want to make money, I go to work. I produce the most. High producer means high revenue, top earner. And again, that's not how God's economy works. God didn't choose me because of anything I did. And it's so easy to fall into this trap of thinking that we've got to work in order to please God. And it just doesn't work that way. God doesn't need us. He doesn't need my work. He doesn't need my effort. Now, is there anything wrong with working hard for God, for laboring in the harvest for the Lord, for pursuing greatness spiritually? Nothing wrong with that. God loves that. But God loves that when that is driven out of a motive of the heart. It's because you love him, not because you feel like you got to do it out of obligation or because you feel like you got to earn something from him. See, Jesus was always about the heart. I think every human being that he interacted with, when he came into that person's presence, I think he looked through that person and he could see who they were. And I think that's why he chose people, because he saw their hearts. And as disgusting as they were on the outside, as disgusting as their lives were, and they were sinful and all these things, he saw their heart and he knew, man, I can work with this person. This person may be broken and flawed and just jacked up, but like David, they have a heart for the Lord. They are a man, they are a woman after God's own heart. I think that's the biggest point that we can take away from this, is that the laborers that showed up at 5 o'clock, ready to work, and they only worked 1 hour, they had a heart for the Lord. And so they received equal pay. Just some food for thought today.